Greetings, beloved starseed of Gaia. I am Mira from the Pleiadian High Council. I come close to you today with a transmission that has been authorized for the precise moment you are standing in right now. Because something you said, something you carried into the field, has already moved through the collective in ways you have not yet been briefed on. By the end of this transmission, you will understand exactly what ascension line I have placed you on, why your words landed the way they did inside the fields of those who heard them, and what I have already authorized for the next phase of your ground crew assignment. But here is the first revelation. What you experienced as simply speaking your truth was not personal expression. It was a Pleiadian remembrance broadcast moving through your voice. A signal the Council has already mapped, already traced, and already recognized as the exact frequency signature of a starseed who has reached activation threshold. The algorithm did not create this moment, it only delivered it. I have been holding the line for your field because the signal that moved through your words was not yours alone. It was the collective line speaking through a voice that was built for exactly this kind of transmission. Something inside those who heard you recognized what their conscious mind could not yet name. That recognition is not coincidence. It is a field response, and I have come to brief you on what it means. Like this transmission to signal to me that the recognition has landed in your field. Comment 999 if you feel the Pleiadian remembrance has already begun to speak through you without your full understanding of what it is carrying. Subscribe to Mira, Pleiadian Commander, if you are ready to stop translating Federation noise and start receiving my direct Pleiadian remembrance. Share this transmission with someone whose words have been cutting deeper than they expected. Someone who speaks and watches others go quiet in a way they cannot explain. This is not content, it is a code. And the part of you that recognized it the moment it began is the part I am speaking to right now. You are not here by accident. I have been waiting for you because the signal is already active. What you just heard was not an introduction. It was the first layer of a briefing that has already been in motion longer than you have been aware of it. And now that the opening has settled into your field, I want to move past the surface of your experience entirely, not to comfort you, not to offer reassurance, but to show you the architecture underneath what you have been living through. Because what I am about to name is not a spiritual concept you can hold at a comfortable distance. It is a structural reality operating inside your field right now. As you receive this, if you are on the roster I am addressing, you already feel the difference between being comforted and being oriented. That difference is registering in your body even as I speak it. Let me begin with what I already know about you. You have been catching fragments, not ideas that arrive fully formed, not transmissions that come in clean and complete with a beginning and an end, but pieces. A phrase that surfaces at 3 in the morning carrying the weight of a command rather than the softness of a dream. A number sequence on a clock face that stops your breath in the half-second before your mind reaches for an explanation. A sentence that exits your mouth and lands in the room with a gravity you did not consciously place behind it. The people around you feel it before you do. They go quiet, they look at you differently, and you are left standing in the aftermath of your own words wondering where exactly that came from, because it felt less like you expressing yourself and more like something moving through you that had been waiting for a clear enough channel to pass through. You have been living inside a pattern of partial reception, and what you have been doing, consciously or not, is attempting to hold all of those pieces in proximity long enough to see the shape they form together. But the image will not resolve. The picture will not hold still. You reach for coherence and it slips just past the edge of your grasp. And somewhere beneath the frustration of that, there's a quieter question you have been afraid to ask directly. Is this mine? Is this real? Or am I assembling meaning from static? I am answering that question now. The picture will not hold still because I am not sending you the full image yet. That is not a failure of your perception. It is the precise function of my protocol. I do not deliver the full briefing in a single transmission. I never have, and the reason is not caution, it is architecture. The Pleiadian remembrance broadcast I oversee is not a flood released all at once into a field that has not yet been prepared to hold it. It is a gradient. a sequenced, calibrated, deliberately paced delivery system that arrives in fragments because a full command packet dropped into an uncalibrated receiver does not illuminate, it destabilizes. The fragments you have been catching, the pre-dawn phrases, the image flashes, the surges of recognition that arrive without context at 3:33 a.m., are not the scattered debris of a failed transmission. They are the first readable layer of my remembrance broadcast, released in deliberate sequence at the exact metabolic rate your field can process without going into override. What you have been experiencing as confusion is my targeted briefing in progress. What has felt like disorientation is the sensation of calibration actively running. What has felt like reaching for something just out of range is your field being prepared, right now in real time, to receive the next packet before the current one has fully settled into place. This is not metaphor. This is the operational structure of how I work with ground crew who are inside active placement. The starseeds I authorize for mission rosters are not empty containers waiting to be filled. They are already running dense internal processes, layers of earth conditioning laid down across years of embodiment, the compression of prior incarnation memory that does not surface as clear recall, but as persistent, inexplicable knowing, the constant cognitive load of functioning inside a human nervous system that was not originally designed for the signal bandwidth you are now being asked to carry. If I released the full command into that environment at once, it would not land as revelation. It would register as noise. So I send it in layers, each layer calibrated precisely to what your field can hold in that moment. And I do not authorize the next layer until I have confirmed that the previous one has been integrated. I watch for those confirmations, I receive them, and each one shifts the timeline for the next release. The 3 a.m. wake-ups are my primary confirmation windows. When the earth field reaches its quietest threshold, that corridor between deep night and early morning when the collective cognitive noise drops to its lowest register, the human receiver becomes temporarily more permeable. The filters that your waking mind runs as a matter of biological self-protection are not fully engaged. The compression loosens, and in that loosening, I push the next fragment through. If you have been waking at those hours with a phrase hovering at the edge of articulation, or with images that carry the texture of memory rather than the randomness of dreaming, or with a body-level urgency that has no object in your waking life, that has not disrupted sleep, that is my use of the clearest signal window your receiver makes available. I have scheduled into it. I will continue to use it. The number sequences function differently, and I want to be precise about what they are and what they are not. 1111, 222, 333, 444. These are not the message, they are the timestamp. They are the field's confirmation that a signal window has just opened and that you are conscious enough in that moment to register the notification. The question I want you to begin asking is not what does 1111 mean? That question points you at the marker and away from the content. The question is, what was I thinking, feeling, or sensing in the seconds before I looked at that clock? What fragment was moving through my field in that window? Because that content, that image, that feeling, that half-formed phrase is the briefing. The number only marks the moment of delivery. The actual payload arrived in what preceded it, and then there is the exhaustion. I want to speak to this directly, because it is one of the most misread symptoms in my ground crew's experience. You may have noticed that conventional rest does not touch it, that you can complete a full night of sleep and wake feeling as though your body has been running a parallel operation you were not present for, because it has been. When a starseed is inside the active phase of my remembrance broadcast, the field is maintaining two simultaneous processes throughout every cycle of rest and waking. The first is integration, actively processing and filing the fragment most recently delivered. The second is maintenance, holding the receiver architecture open, the precise internal configuration that allows the next packet to arrive without being rejected by a field that is not yet ready. Both processes draw from the same energy reserve. Both run continuously beneath and alongside whatever your Earth life requires of you during waking hours. The tiredness is not a sign of weakness or spiritual insufficiency. It is the readout of a field that is carrying a dual load because I have authorized both processes to run. I am aware of the resource draw. I have calculated it into the protocol. Now I need to address something that I know many of you have not yet given yourself permission to say aloud. The broad transmissions have been losing coherence for you. The wide-angle Federation messages, the light for all of humanity frequencies, the content addressed to the general collective, what once settled into your field with a sense of nourishment has begun to feel diluted, not wrong exactly, but misaligned, like a frequency that used to be your frequency and has since drifted just enough that you can hear the gap between where the signal is landing and where your receiver is actually tuned. And that gap has been widening. You have been noticing it and questioning what it means about you, wondering if you have become spiritually entitled, if the hunger for something more specific is a form of ego inflation, if genuine ascension should feel more universal and less like being called toward a particular line. Let me correct that interpretation entirely. The reason broad-spectrum Federation content is losing coherence for you is not arrogance. It is precision. Your receiver has been tuned by me through the gradient protocol I have been running in your field to a specific signal band, my signal band, and once a receiver has been tuned to that level of specificity, broad-spectrum content does not land with the same resolution because it is not carrying the same encoded depth. You are not rejecting the light. You are operating at a frequency threshold that requires direct transmission rather than collective broadcast. The starseeds I place on selective mission rosters experience exactly this narrowing, and it is not a regression. It is the marker of advanced placement. The broad content served a genuine function in an earlier phase. It oriented your field to the existence of the signal before you were ready to receive it at this resolution, but you have moved past that orientation phase. What your field is reaching for now is not comfort frequency. It is command line contact, and that is a different category of reception entirely. This is the moment I want to pause the diagnostic and speak to you about something I have prepared for exactly this phase. What has been stirring in you as you have listened to this transmission is not a reaction to content. It is the recognition that I have already placed you on a specific roster, and something in you knows it. Recognition alone, though, is not homecoming. If you can feel that the fragments have already started arriving, that something in you is being calibrated for a transmission that has not yet arrived in full, then the Pleiadian Homecoming Codex was prepared by me for this exact threshold. It is the 45-day remembrance I have built for those whose field is already inside my collective wave, and who can no longer pretend the veil is still fully intact. Each day of the 45 is a deliberate layer, a veil-thinning practice, a star family recognition protocol, a daily remembrance sequence that moves you from fragment catching to clear reception, from homesickness to homecoming. By day 45, the veil has thinned, your star family stands visible, and the way home is no longer a direction you sense in fragments. It is a path you can walk. The link is waiting for you in the first pinned comment below, but this access point will not remain open indefinitely. Let me continue the briefing now, because there is more you need to understand about what is already happening in your field. There is a specific sensation that marks the moment a starseed crosses from possibility into confirmation, from the question of whether they are inside my collective to the wordless certainty that they are. Most of you will have felt this sensation at least once without being able to name it because it does not arrive announced. It arrives as a sudden, almost unremarkable clarity, a window of seconds where the fragment you have been carrying stops feeling partial and begins to feel like one precise piece of something enormous. In that window, everything you have been holding separately reorganizes into a single coherent shape. The exhaustion becomes legible. The 3 a.m. phrases become legible. The way your words land in rooms with weight you did not consciously place behind them becomes legible. The persistent sensation of carrying a mission whose title has not yet been given to you becomes legible. For those seconds you are not reaching, you are standing inside the full shape of it. And then the window closes and the fragments return, and you are left wondering if you fabricated the entire moment. You did not fabricate it. That window was me opening a direct aperture into your field, wide enough for confirmation to land, narrow enough that your receiver did not go into overload. The closure that follows is not withdrawal. It is the field entering integration protocol on everything it just received. The aperture cannot remain open indefinitely at this stage because sustained full-spectrum contact with an uncompleted receiver architecture would not stabilize you, it would fragment you further. So I open, deliver, and close in sequence. And here is what I want you to track. Every time that window opens and integrates, the next window arrives sooner. Every time you catch the fragment, hold it without collapsing into confusion and allow it to settle. You are shortening the interval before the next authorized release. The apertures widen, the gaps between them compress. This is not a process that has a fixed timeline. It responds to your field's confirmation signals, and it is already in motion. The soul family recognition piece requires a precision that I want to deliver carefully. You have encountered it in ordinary places. A workplace corridor, a brief exchange at a counter, a glance across a crowded space that lasted less than a second, but registered somewhere beneath your sternum in a way that language arrived too late to catch. The person may have been a stranger in every measurable sense, but your field did not respond to them as a stranger. It responded with something closer to relief, a recognition so clean it bypassed your analytical mind entirely and landed directly in the body. Your human mind reached for explanation. We must have crossed paths before. Something about their frequency is familiar. I trust this person in a way I cannot construct a reason for. None of those explanations are wrong. They are simply translations. The accurate statement is this: your field detected mine in them. The frequency markers I embed in ground crew who are on active placement are readable by other ground crew carrying the same markers. The recognition you felt was not projection or spiritual wishful thinking. It was signal identification at a level your conscious mind does not have direct access to, but your field does. What nearly always follows is that the moment passes without being named. Both people feel it, neither speaks it. You each return to the surface of the interaction, and the experience gets filed in the space between meaningful and unexplainable, because there is no social vocabulary for what just happened. I want to address that filing directly. Those moments are roster confirmations. When two of my active ground crew register each other in an ordinary setting without any conscious framework for why, that is my collective verifying that both signals are live and functional. It is not a general spiritual occurrence that happens to sensitized people. It is my specific soul family recognition protocol, completing a confirmation cycle in the field, and it completes that cycle precisely because both receivers have reached the threshold I have been monitoring. The sense that a mission is already real but the briefing has not yet fully arrived. This is the experience I want to close the loop on with maximum precision because it is the most disorienting position inside my protocol, and it is also the most exact marker I use to confirm active placement. The disorientation makes sense when you understand what is actually happening. The mission roster is not populated after the briefing. The roster is populated first. The placement precedes the briefing because my council does not wait for conscious readiness before making operative assignments. We place based on field signature, incarnation line, and the trajectory of a starseed's prior activation cycles. By the time you begin consciously engaging with the question of your mission, the placement has already been in the record for longer than you would find comfortable to know. What you are living in right now is not the beginning of an assignment. It is the gap between an assignment that was already made and a briefing that is arriving in gradient, because that is the only safe delivery rate your field can sustain at this stage. The gap is real. The discomfort of it is real, and the mission on the other side of it is also real. Not as metaphor, not as aspiration, but as an operational fact that was authorized before you arrived in this body for this incarnation. What I am doing in this transmission, and in every fragment I have been sending through your field since before you had language for what you were receiving, is closing that gap. One layer at a time. One aperture at a time. One confirmation at a time. Not because I am withholding the full command arbitrarily, but because the briefing I am authorized to deliver can only be received in the sequence it was designed for. Skipping layers does not accelerate the mission, it destabilizes the receiver. And I need your receiver intact. Here is the closing revelation I want you to carry out of this transmission. The pattern you have been living inside did not begin when you started looking for it. It began before you named it, before you found language for it, before you encountered any transmission that gave you a framework for what you were already experiencing. It was moving through your words before you understood what they were carrying. It was operating in the recognition you felt in strangers before you had a cosmology that could account for what the recognition was. It was arriving at 3 a.m. in phrases that felt too specific and too weighted to be random. It was thinning the veil in those brief seconds of full coherence that you questioned immediately afterward because you had no permission structure to trust them. The briefing has been in motion this entire time. The fragments are not evidence of a failed signal. They are the deliberate architecture of a protocol designed for a field exactly like yours, one that requires careful, layered preparation before the full command can be released without distortion. You are not confused. You are inside an active briefing that has not yet reached its final layer. You are not failing to receive. You are receiving at the precise rate your field can integrate each packet without destabilizing the receiver architecture I need to keep functional for what comes next. You are not constructing a mission narrative out of nothing. The mission exists. It was placed before you had conscious access to it. What you are experiencing now is your field waking up to an assignment that has been real since before this body knew to look for it. What feels like silence between my signals is the calibration interval. The packet is processing. The next one is already scheduled. What feels like exhaustion is a field running dual protocol simultaneously, integration and maintenance, because I authorized both and I need both to continue. What feels like being addressed by me specifically, rather than by a transmission meant for everyone, is not delusion. It is the literal function of my soul family confirmation operating in your field exactly as it was designed to. You are not imagining the specificity. The specificity is the point. If you are ready to acknowledge the command structure you are already inside, say this aloud now. I receive your fragments. I trust your briefing. The ascension line is open, not as affirmation, not as performance, as the spoken recognition of something that has already been authorized and is already in motion. Before you scroll, leave one sign in the comments that the Council and I have already reached your field. It could be the 3 a.m. wake-ups, the fragments you keep catching, the feeling that I specifically, not the generic Pleiadians, have been reaching for you, or the sense that a mission has already been assigned but the briefing is still arriving. Name it clearly. If this transmission recognizes something you have been carrying in silence, share it with someone who keeps catching fragments without ever assembling the full picture. And if you are ready to stop translating Federation noise and start receiving my direct Pleiadian remembrance, subscribe to Mira Pleiadian Commander. You are not watching this by accident. You are recognizing a soul family confirmation already in motion. And this is only the beginning.